Good Sunday morning. If you are anything like me, you are throwing on a big old bulky cozy sweater and maybe you're white knuckling it through the day. I'm sharing this video with you because I feel like I'm in an interesting predicament right now, and I know for certain that there are going to be people out there who can relate to me. And my number one message always in sharing my personal experiences and my family's experiences with anxiety with all of you is so that no one would ever feel alone. So, this morning is, my attempt at sort of bridging the gap through my own vulnerability and hopefully also giving you some information that you will find useful. Also, this is the finest bedhead. If I waited until I was camera ready, I would never bring you any content at all. So, anyway, here I am. We have all heard about the coronavirus. Everybody around the world is talking about it. And just a few days ago, I was sort of calming my own anxiety because we're in Oregon. And is it better without the reflection? Now you can see my bags. It's okay. Um, so we're in Oregon, and as of a few days ago, there had been 0 reported cases of the coronavirus in Oregon. And then just about 48 hours ago, the first confirmed case of coronavirus came out. And, I had been sort of, mentally self-caring by saying, oh my gosh, it's not even in Oregon yet. What would be the chances that in all of Oregon it would even be anywhere close to us? Well, less than 48 hours ago, when the first case of coronavirus was confirmed in Oregon, it happens to be in our sistering town. We share a very blurry border with this town, and there is a lot of crossover. And so I'm not sure if I've shared with you all before. Typically, with generalized anxiety disorder, there is a specific, trigger or sort of like fear umbrella, right? That all anxiety originates from. Mine happens to be illness. I don't know why. There's no rhyme or reason. I've never been ill, really. I've had the flu before, but anyway, my anxiety is rooted in health-based issues. And so this is a big one for me, like can be paralyzing big. And I was talking to my husband this morning, trying to explain what it feels like to suddenly have this information that the coronavirus is literally next door. And I said, imagine that you are deathly afraid of sharks, right? As most people would be if somebody said, awesome, I recognize that fear, but I'm going to drop you in the middle of a school of sharks, and I'm going to just see how effectively you can tread water. And that's exactly what it feels like when you are living in the midst of your anxiety trigger. Like you have been dropped into the most dangerous, treacherous waters, and somebody's like, but go ahead and keep living your life. Like, don't miss a beat, right? Don't forget to pack the kids' lunches and make sure you're showering and the dogs need to be fed, but you're also running for your life in all of those moments. So that's where I'm at, which makes it really, really tricky when you are also parenting an anxious child, right? Our children look to us as the barometer of the feelings in the home. They look to us for guidance. They are incredibly smart and intuitive and sensitive, and they can pick up on our energy. And so all you anxious parents out there who are also parenting anxious kids, I just want like a fist bump moment of solidarity and acknowledging and validating that is an incredibly exhausting position to be in, because you are desperately trying to manage your own anxiety while also setting a positive, resilient tone for your children. So how do we talk about scary stuff with our kids when we are also internally really struggling? And I wanted to bring to you a few points that has really seemed to be effective in our family. And I just wanted to kind of walk alongside you through this particular season and as seasons like this pop up in your own life. And just give you a little bit of a framework for how I navigate this. So, first and foremost, no matter how exhausting and difficult it is, I try desperately to not bring my own feelings into the conversation. So, um, you know, uh, what's crazy is my kids are in second and fourth grade, and I keep forgetting that they hear things at school before they hear things at home. And so, chances are your kids are going to hear some things that maybe you're not even talking about at home. And so, I do think it's important to bring them into the conversation. But before, I should have said this before I talked about checking your own feelings. I think it's really important to evaluate why you want to share potentially scary news with your kids. If there is not a part of your message that that communicates to them their responsibility in it, then I don't know that it's necessary to share. So we'll take school shootings, for example. This is something that I have personally chosen not to share with my kids because, in the grand scheme of things, there is nothing in those scary situations and hearing about those happening at other schools that my children can take ownership of and responsibility for. So, in my opinion, there is no reason to equip them with that knowledge ahead of time. Now, certainly, if they do hear about it at school and they bring it home to me, that's something that we're going to talk about. But when there are no actionable steps for them to be taking in response to that scary situation, I'm just not going to share it with them. In the case of cold and flu season, in particular this coronavirus, there is an element of control and responsibility that they can take, right? Being hyper vigilant about washing their hands. And that is the message that I wanted to carry to them. So, number one, evaluate why you want to share the scary news with them. Determine whether or not sharing that scary news has an outcome of you asking them to be responsible for something. If there's nothing that they can control, I don't think that they need to know about it. Okay, so then as you frame the conversation with them, you're checking your feelings. You are working diligently to not bring your sense of anxiety into the conversation. One of the basic needs of all children is to feel safe. They are looking to you to make sure that that happens. So check your feelings. Even if you have to fake it, you're not overly anxious about what you're about to talk with them about. And the way you're framing it is in an empowering message. Hey, it's cold and flu season. There's this weird virus going around called the coronavirus. Mind you, my fourth grader was like, people at school have been talking about that. She happens to have a fantastic teacher who apparently shut the conversation down, which I really appreciate, and is allowing families to talk about it. So I said, there's this, it's cold and flu season. There's this particular virus called the coronavirus going around. And what I want is for you guys to be responsible when it comes to washing your hands. So here's what we have. We have these Purell hand sanitizing wipes. I want you to pack one of these in your lunch every day before you eat lunch. Right? So we went over basic hand washing hygiene. That is why I shared it with them, so that they can take responsibility of washing their hands, not picking their noses, and not putting their hands in their mouths, okay? And because it will help them understand why, hey, mom's not usually all that concerned about germs, but I'm being more cautious these days. So when I ask you to wash your hands more often, please don't roll your eyes at me. Just understand I'm doing this for a reason, okay? You're positioning why you're sharing this scary news with them. Only share the very basic facts. They don't need to know the origination. They don't need to know statistics and details and blah, 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 blah. they only need to know the very basic facts. And when you are then um, explaining it to them, be sure you're not anticipating what their questions might be. I can guarantee you an 8-year-old's questions and a 10-year-old's questions are going to be far different than you, as the adult parent, the questions that you are seeking answers to. So if we try to be overly prepared with too much information, we are going to overwhelm them, and ultimately we're going to do the opposite of what we're trying to do, which is empower them, and we're going to freak them out the ways that maybe we ourselves are a little bit freaked out. So only answer the questions that they ask. No more, no less. We hear this all the time when people talk about questions about, sex and puberty and all of that. You just answer what they're asking. I would also strongly encourage you not to make promises that you can't keep. So my 8-year-old, who sort of lives for the shock factor, that's like her MO. As we were talking about cleaning her hands, she came up and put her pinky up to me and said, "Mom, can you pinky promise me that you're not going to die from this?" And I just kind of laughed it off. And I said, I can't promise anything like that. But what I can promise you is that I'm a really, really, really healthy person. I take really good care of myself. And I'm going to be hyper vigilant about taking the steps to stay healthy. Okay. So sometimes our kids will ask us to make promises out of jokey joke and to get a reaction out of us. And sometimes our anxious kids will want us to make promises because that's what makes them feel better in the moment. And we have to refrain from the instant fix it in us to be like, yes, I promise. Because we want our children to trust us, right? And we want to be realistic with our children. That doesn't mean it's all doomsday and we're going to prepare them for the worst. Nope, nope, nope. Instead, we're going to reframe their question in a positive way and an assuring way. I'm going to also encourage you to keep your kids out of the media. They do not need to see the images. They do not need to see people in masks and hazmat suits, and they don't need to see any of that. For our anxious children, those are images that just burn fear into their minds. And, you have a really special, honorable position in their lives to be the filter, right? And so don't take that lightly. And I would not allow external forces to take that job away from you. So be really mindful about what you're listening to in the car, about what is playing on blast downstairs, all of those things, okay? And then the last 2 points when navigating through these scary, tricky conversations is to offer reassurance, right? To say like, hey, I want you to know, that we're not at very high risk, or that if you take these steps really seriously, it's really going to help all of us to stay healthy. And gosh, you have to remember you're a really healthy child. Or remember last year when our whole family got the flu and then we were all okay, right? So it's not lying to them. It's reassuring. It's reminding them of the pages in your family's history book. If you saw my last post, you'll understand the history book analogy. And then lastly, check in. Don't assume that because you've wrapped up the conversation, nobody is thinking about it again. And also rest assured that by checking in, if your child hadn't been thinking about it anymore, checking in is not going to make them think about it again. If they're not thinking about it anymore, it's because they've decided it's something that they can cross off of their worry list. And checking in just shows them that you're compassionate and you're loving and that their feelings are important to you. It's not going to suddenly dig something up that they had put to rest. And if they are trying desperately to pretend as though they're putting it to rest because they want to please you and they want to make you happy and because they don't want to exhaust you with their OCD circles, the best gift you can give them is the opportunity and the forum to discuss their feelings again. So I hope that that's helpful. This is how we have been handling the tough stuff in our family. And, again, I'm not a licensed therapist. I am a mama who suffers from anxiety and parents a child with anxiety. And this is my experience. And I hope that you can find, I just hope that you can find some comfort in it, and just knowing that I'm walking alongside the murky waters with you, and we're figuring it out as we go, and we are perfectly capable and courageous enough to do so. So have a great week ahead.